All right, good morning, everybody. Get ready to get going here. So Genesis 25, right? We're not going to skip over Genesis 25. We'll make sure we get that one in there too. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation. So there'll be some stuff probably is more familiar, some stuff less familiar. So hopefully we'll have some good discussion on here too. Let's open with prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you that you continue to show us how you have been faithful to your people, how you've kept your promises, you've been faithful to your covenant through the line of Abraham. I pray that you would guide us as we continue in this journey today, that we might see your faithfulness at work and lead us in that faithfulness. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so Genesis 25, we'll pick up where we left off there. So in 24, we finished with Sarah's death and burial. Abraham went and bought that land that he could have, so land that his family would then own. So he has land. He has legal right to land within Canaan there. And then we had the connection with Rebekah and the servant going, finding Rebekah. Because why was it important to Abraham that Isaac not have a wife from Canaan? Why was that important? Yeah. So the Canaanites, so they were not so largely writ, right, people that were not Yahweh worshipers and would lead Isaac in the wrong path. Okay, that might come up again later here. Let's see. All right, so we've got Isaac. He's got his wife Rebekah now, and then Sarah's died. Now, okay, chapter 25. And just one note here as we get into this. This is not necessarily chronological. This is all kind of grouped together thematically here too, so some things overlay. So we'll talk more about that in a second. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, Shua. Jokshan fathered Sheba and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Asherim, Letushim, and Lemenim. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanak, Abidah, and Eldah. These were all these were the children of Keturah. Abraham gave all he had to Isaac, but to the sons of his concubines Abraham gave gifts. And while he was still living, he sent them away from his son Isaac, eastward to the east country. So we've got this other children coming from Abraham. So God keeping his promise, right, making him a father of many already here. Now with the concubines, we have Keturah as named one. So the concubines didn't have the status of the wife, but there was still kind of a relationship recognized because the children were recognized as descendants of the father. Okay? So we have Keturah as one of them. Presumably, Hagar would have been the other concubine. So we have Ishmael through Hagar, and then we have through Keturah these other children. But what does Abraham do while he's still living, does it say? Send them away, right? So they go live in another land, or at least another part of the land, so that it's not confusing who the heir, right, the primary heir is. Because who's that? Isaac, right? So this is kind of action to protect Isaac and kind of solidify his claim to everything there. But he gives them gifts. Well, he's sending them away, but the main heir is Isaac. Okay, so these are verse 7. These are the days of the years of Abraham's life, 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, east of Mamre, the field that Abraham purchased from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried with Sarah his wife. After the death of Abraham, God blessed Isaac his son, and Isaac settled at Beer Lahai Roi. So Abraham, how old when he died? 175. And so he's already started to see the fulfillment of God's promise that he was going to have these children, he blessed that way. But who buries him when he dies? Isaac and Ishmael. So Ishmael comes back. So apparently he wasn't like completely cut off, but these two sons then bury their father in the same place that Sarah was buried, in that land that Abraham had purchased. Verse 12. These are the generation of Ishmael. So this is another interlude here. Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's servant, bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, named in the order of their birth. Nebaioth, firstborn of Ishmael, and Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tamna, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names. By their villages and by their encampments, 12 princes according to their tribes. These are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. He breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people. They settled from Havilah to Shur, which is opposite Egypt in the direction of Assyria. He settled over against all his kinsmen. So these Ishmaelites, so we hear, and these would be, as they would go, so princes of Arabia. And we talked a little bit about this before, right? So that down the line, that this is kind of as the people of Islam track their parentage back to Abraham, not through Isaac, but through Ishmael. So we have these princes there. So God is keeping his promise to Ishmael as well, right? Because when Ishmael was sent off, what did God say to Hagar? What was the promise that God made? Well, that Ishmael would be blessed, right? That he would be a prince, that there would be nations coming from him too. And so already we're seeing this being fulfilled here too. Now, that last line there in verse 18, the Ishmaelites, they're going to be rivals of the children of Isaac, the line of Abraham, the Hebrews. So there's already this rivalry that's going to be in play here. So these nations against nations, but they're all tracing back their parentage there. Any questions at this point? Okay. Verse 19. These are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean, to be his wife. So remember what I said, how these aren't necessarily chronological, right? So Abraham at this point is 140 when Isaac gets married to Rebekah. So these are kind of these are parallel things that are happening. So Abraham's still alive, all right, and Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. So who else was barren? Sarah. God gives a child. Rebekah, that child's wife, right, is also barren. He prays, God answers that prayer and gives a child. Now, give children, and this is, as we see here, it's going to be about 20 years after they are married. So we'll keep going there. So the children, verse 22, the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it is thus, why is this happening to me? So imagine it was probably a difficult pregnancy. You feel the children kind of, the twins wrestling around in there. So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger. When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called his name Esau. Afterwards, his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. All right, so putting this in the chronology of things, right? So Isaac is now 60, which means Abraham is about 160. So he's seeing his grandsons born. So these these children of the line of promise born here. And a couple things with the names, right? So Rebekah gives birth. We have Esau coming out first. Esau sounds like he has the parallel name we're going to get to here in a minute of Edom. And Admah is the Hebrew with red. So we've got that name connection there too. So we've got red coming out, and then literally holding on to him as he's being born, right? You've got Jacob. They're still wrestling even on the way out from their mother's womb. And Jacob, that name goes to, there's an idiom, takes by the heel, because Akav is heel. So takes by the heel is as we see later on, is an idiom for trickery or deceiving. So you take somebody by the heel, you've tricked them. So already here, the second-born is taking by the heel the firstborn. Okay. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So we're set up there. Any questions from what you've heard? Yeah.
Not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
With Jacob, meaning to grasp his heel,
Mm-hmm.
to deceive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where we get the saying to pull somebody's leg?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Could be. I don't know. That's a good question. If that's related to the Hebraism, pulling somebody's leg versus taking by the heel. Maybe. We'll have to find out now. Donna's going to research it for us. Thank you. All right. Okay, so what's the nature of the relationship of these boys already, before we get into anything else? They're pretty different, right? And even in the womb, there's this wrestling, there's this struggle. We don't know, if as they grew up, they were kind of at each other all the time. Maybe not, but they were very different, right? So Esau is this man of the field. He's a hunter. He's out there. He's that, and then Jacob is much more domestic. Okay? Now, there's a couple answers to this. Why does Isaac love Esau? He's the firstborn. By moments, firstborn, but what else? So maybe similar personality for Isaac there too. He's a good cook. Well, or actually more likely, he's the good hunter that gets the good stuff so that he can have good food. But there's favoritism. But Rebekah loves Jacob. Why does she love Jacob? I mean, hopefully they love them both, but this is kind of the way this is used here, is kind of a preferential love, which is not good already in and of itself, that preferential thing. But why do you think Rebekah has that connection with Jacob? He stayed around home, maybe kind of mama's boy, kind of. But what else? What else does Rebekah know? She heard the promise, right? When she was pregnant. She goes to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord tells her, the older shall serve the younger. This is going to be important. So that she knows, she's got this understanding of what it is. Yeah, I mean, she might have told this to Isaac as well, but apparently he did not so much track with it. Okay, so let's keep going here. Once when Jacob was cooking stew, and the stew here we're talking about is probably like a lentil stew. It was a big staple of the diet back in the ancient Near East, and continues to be for the Hebrews. So hearty vegetarian stew with the lentils and everything, and kind of like a split pea kind of thing, but imagine it as red with the red brown lentils in there. So this stew. Esau comes in from the field, and he was exhausted. You can just picture it, right? And Esau said to Jacob, Let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted. Therefore his name was called Edom. And again, Edom sounds like the Hebrew for red. So red here, who has kind of got that nickname back at his birth, right, sees this red stew. So the red wants the stew. Jacob said, all right, sell me your birthright now. What's the birthright? What do you guys remember about the birthright? So there's a charge. What else? Possessions. Okay, so there's like a double portion of material wealth that's given to the firstborn, but there's also a charge that goes with it. That child, or the one who has that blessing, is the new head of the family, and they have the responsibility for taking care of the family. And in this case, right, they are called to be faithful to that covenant with Yahweh. Like they're the ones who are supposed to be carrying that on. So it's a big deal. But Jacob here, because he is the second born, he doesn't get that. So he's like, all right, so sell me your birthright. If you're going to die, if this is so important to you. So Esau says, I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me? Is Esau about to die? No. He's just hangry, right? He's not about to die here, but he's apparently just famished, and so Jacob says, "Swear to me now." So Esau swore to Jacob and sold his birthright to Jacob. What does that say about Esau's view of the birthright? It's a low view. He doesn't care. Like this should be a sacred thing to him. So Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So showing what his attitude is towards that birthright. Okay? Any questions? Yeah, Jan? We don't know. I mean, it could be just that he didn't think very much of it. He didn't particularly care, because we're going to hear in a minute here about some of Esau's choices and actions that indicate he didn't particularly care about carrying on the Yahweh worship. There is. I mean, there's oftentimes we think about, well, there's like the wealth part of it that would come with it, but there's the responsibility. And maybe he was perfectly fine doing his own thing, and he didn't care about the responsibility of having to be in charge of things. Maybe. But it wasn't his to sell, though, right? So that it was his to receive and do, but maybe God had other plans anyway, because we already heard about that back when they were both in the womb. So let's keep going. 26. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. Now, I've heard about this guy before, right? Abimelech, that he was the one that Abraham had a relationship. Now, this could be the same guy. It's possible it's the same guy, or it's also possible that this is a title which is handed down. Does that make sense? So like Pharaoh in Egypt, it's not always the same guy, but it's the title, like president or whatever. So either way, it's going to the same land, same peoples. So Isaac goes to Gerar, to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him, to Isaac, and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and to your offspring I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father. I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and will give you offspring all these, and give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." So what has God just done here? What has he shared with Isaac? the blessing, the covenant. He has repeated, he has reiterated the blessing that he gave to his father Abraham. It's like, no, it's on you. Now, at this point, has Isaac given his blessing? No, that happens later, right? So God said, in the womb, here's what's going to happen. There's this thing where Jacob, he buys his brother's birthright for a song and some stew, right? But God is reading, the promise that I am giving is going to go through you, Jacob, not through Esau. All right, so let's keep going. These very thin pieces of paper here. There we go. Okay. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, oh wait, hang on. I was skipping ahead of myself there. I was confusing names. Sorry. Strike that. We're talking about Isaac still. Isaac the father, right? So the promise going through Isaac. You guys, no wonder you guys were looking a little confused there. So yes. So Isaac, right, goes with his wife and his sons. When the men of the place asked Isaac about his wife, he said, "She's my sister." For he feared to say my wife, thinking lest the men of the place should kill me because of Rebekah, because she was attractive in appearance. Does that sound familiar? Like father, like son, right? So that he's claiming, technically, there's a half truth in it, in that they're related, but it's not what they're saying it is. So they go with this ruse. When he had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of a window and saw Isaac laughing with Rebekah, his wife. And the Hebrew here for this expression is not just like laughing, but kind of like in an intimate moment, like maybe like laughing is like he caressed her or something like that. Something like, oh, this is not your sister. So where we go? So Abimelech, verse 9, Abimelech called Isaac and said, "Behold, she's your wife. How then could you say she's my sister?" Isaac said to him, "Because I thought lest I die because of her." Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." And this is again where we have an instance of Avimelech, right? Because we did the same song and dance back with Abraham, right? That the people here are at least observing a righteousness, that you don't take another man's wife. All right, verse 12. Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich and gained more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and many servants, so that the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped and filled with earth all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father. What's the deal with that? The Philistines had stopped and filled in all the wells that Abraham's servants had dwelled. Why would they do that? Water's important, and what do you use water for? Farmland, but your flocks, right? So if somebody else is coming in and you want to get rid of them, fill in the wells. Fill in their wells, so they have to move on. So the Philistines had come and filled in these wells so that Abraham's servants and people, they would have to look elsewhere. They couldn't have that. So there's that kind of contention there. So, but Avimelech, verse 16, said, "Isaac, go away from us, for you are much mightier than we." Because God has already blessed Isaac, son of Abraham, and given him great and many possessions here, flocks, all this, and it's just too much. You got to go elsewhere. So Isaac departs. Isaac departed from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, which the Philistines had stopped after the death of Abraham. And he gave them the names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of spring water, the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, "The water is ours." So he called the name of the well Esek, and Esek means contention, because they contended with him. Then they dug another well. They quarreled over that also. So he called its name Sitnah. Sitnah is enmity. And he moved from there and dug another well. And they did not quarrel over it. So he called its name Rehoboth, saying, "For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." And Rehoboth is room, or like a broad place. So they've got a place to be. From there, Isaac went up to Beersheba. And the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, I am the God of Abraham your father. Fear not, for I am with you and will bless you and multiply your offspring for my servant Abraham's sake. So he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. When Avimelech went to him from Gerar with Azahath, his advisor, and Philcol, the commander of his army, Isaac said to him, Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you? They said, We see plainly that the Lord has been with you. So we said, Let there be a sworn pact between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done to you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths, and Isaac sent them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. That same day Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug, and said to him, We have found water. And he called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. Sheba sounds like the Hebrew for an oath. So we have this relationship between Isaac and his people and the Philistines. But the Philistines have recognized that God is blessing Isaac. So why do they want to make this covenant? They don't want to mess with him. If God is with him, they're like, okay, we're just gonna go along and get along and not mess with each other, and everybody can be happy. So they've recognized, all right, something's going on here. We're gonna make this covenant. So it's kind of a protective action on their part. Like, okay, so there we go. People got their wells, they got their territory. Everything's nifty and fine. All right. Any questions on all that stuff? Okay, let's take a look at this next paragraph, because this is going to make a difference here too. So when Esau was 40 years old, how old is Jacob at this time? They're twins. Yeah, actually Jacob, not Isaac, Jacob, right? Anyway, okay, so Esau, 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basmath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. So how does this tell us more about Esau? He married idolaters. So he's already despising the birthright, right? He's again showing that he despises the birthright, that he is not working to preserve the line and Yahweh worship even in his family. And he's married these Hittites who are idolaters and come from people who worship as a pantheon, but including like the sun and the moon and fertility. It's like fertility cult stuff. So all that in there. And as it notes down there, verse 35, these daughters-in-law made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. So who knows what that was like, but they came in and just started messing everything up. Okay, questions, or should we move on? There's going to be a lot happening in 27 here. All right, let's take a look. So when Isaac was old, so this is many years later, and his eyes were dim so he could not see, he called Esau his older son and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Behold, I am old, I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out into the field and hunt game for me, and prepare for me delicious food such as I love, and bring it to me so that I might eat, and my soul may bless you before I die." Why was it that Isaac loved Esau? He brought the good food, right? So go do this thing I love you for. Go bring the good food. And also, you're my oldest, right? So do this so that what? Verse 4, so that I might give the blessing. Now, it doesn't explicitly say this, but do you think Rebekah at some point had told Isaac about the promise that God gave to her about what's going to happen with these sons? Maybe. That he should be giving the blessing not to his firstborn, but to Jacob. So we don't know. We don't know if she shared that or not. If not, then Isaac is doing what he thinks he's supposed to do, that the blessing goes to the firstborn. So go do this, bring me the food so that I might bless you before I die. Now, verse 5, now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game and bring it, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me game and prepare for me delicious food, that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 good young goats, that I may prepare from them delicious food for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father to eat, so he may bless you before he dies." But Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse upon myself, and not a blessing." His mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice, and go bring them to me." So, who's making the plan? Mom. Mom's making the plan. Yeah.
I don't think that she would tell the father, because how could you give the blessing knowing,
You never know. Well, because it could have just been, Rebecca, you don't know what you're talking about. You're pregnant and stuff. This pregnancy brain. Yeah, who knows? Maybe she didn't. But ultimately the thing is we don't know. But she believes it, right? She's believing the promise. So she has heard this plan that Isaac has for Esau. She's like, well, no, the blessing has to go to who? Jacob. So she makes this plan so that that blessing goes where God has told her it's supposed to go. So this happens now, interestingly enough, right? Does Jacob have a problem with the plan? Well, he has no problem with the concept of the plan, right? He's just like, well, this might not work. I might get a curse if he sees that if he figures out it's me, Jacob, and not my brother Esau. And Rebekah's like, I'll take care of it. But Jacob already, right, we heard a while back, he wanted the birthright, right? He got his brother to sell it to him. So he thinks it should be his anyway. So he's fine going along with this, and like, okay, and Rebekah's like, or let the curse be on me. So she's willing to take responsibility for it if there is a curse. Because why? Why is she doing what she's doing? Because she has heard from God that the blessing is supposed to be going to Jacob. All right, so let's keep going here. Verse 14. So Jacob went and took the young goats, brought them to his mother. His mother prepared delicious food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And the skins of the young goats she put on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. And she put the delicious food and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. So Jacob is now dressed for the part. He's got his brother's best clothes on. He's got the skins of the goats on his forearms here and the back of his neck. He's got the food. He's got the bread. He goes in. So Jacob went into his father and said, "My father." And Isaac said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" All right, already right there. Who are you? Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn." Outright lie. "I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" It's like, "Granny, what sharp teeth you have." So Jacob answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, who felt him, and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice." So he knew that. But the hands, right, the forearms, right, are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. He said, "Are you really my son Esau?" Jacob answered, "I am." Then he said, "Bring it near to me that I may eat of my son's game and bless you." So he brought it near to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come near and kiss me, my son." So he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said, "See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field the Lord has blessed." So he's been dubious this whole time, even up to the food. But now, they bring him in. They grab him by the back of the neck. What's on the back of the neck? More of those goat skins, right? By the back of the neck, and smell him. Because how often did they wash their clothes back then? They didn't throw them in the Maytag, right? So it's gonna these are Esau's best clothes. They're gonna smell like Esau. They do. This is the smell of the field the Lord has blessed. May God give you of the dew of the heaven and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. So there's a blessing, right? Because Isaac doesn't just limit this blessing to may you be prosperous, but may you have dominion over what? Over what? Nations. Right? So that it's not just a small scale blessing, but you're going to be the one who is inheriting nations, and that cursed be everyone who curses you, blessed be everyone who blesses you. So that you want to have good relationships, that God give you these good relationships with the people around you, those people you're going to be interacting with. So it's a big deal blessing here. Okay. Yeah.
Is there any significance to what Jacob said in verse 20? The Lord your God, instead of saying the Lord my God?
Yeah, there's in that whenever people say that, it does kind of spark something. So that at this point, it's not that he's confessing Yahweh as his God, as Jacob confessing Yahweh is his God. That doesn't happen until after he gets back from Haran, after everything that's going to happen to him happens, and he gets back, confessing Yahweh as his God. So yeah, it could be like he's still, I mean, he's in the act of deceiving his father, his dying father, who can't see him. He's to steal the birthright. Yeah. Oh, it's not that Esau was any better, right? Yeah, it's the. Oh, like so he's just saying it. I don't know. I think it's probably more of Jacob saying it too. I mean, because if it is, then if Esau it would have regularly said, Yahweh, your God, should he be getting the blessing in the first place? No, because he's already despising it, right? Which we've seen his actions in the past. So it's like it's not the one is better than the other. And for Jacob to be saying it here, if he did believe in Yahweh his God, I mean you could say that is a way of identifying a person with God. And we see that later on too with the different nations around the Hebrews talking about Yahweh, your God, even with the priests, because that's the blessing when they go, as the people come into the land, right? The thing that they're supposed to say is when they're given the land, they bring these first fruits to the priest who's in office. And the whole thing, and we heard it actually in worship not too long ago, you shall say to the priest, my father was a wandering Aramean, and all this stuff. And so the Lord, your God, so speaking to the priest, has blessed me. So there is some significance in that, yeah. Okay. Where were we? Verse 30? Any other questions before you keep going? Okay. So verse 30. As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. This is pretty dramatic. But what does that mean? What did Isaac wonder about when first Jacob came into his presence with the food and everything? He says it's like too soon. How'd you get back so quickly? What is Jacob's response? The Lord your God has blessed me. So how's Esau getting back so quickly? If he's had the time to go and prepare the meal and bring it into his father after hunting it. Has the Lord blessed Esau? And just a little note there. There's the stuff that's in here matters. All right? So Esau comes in from his hunting. He also prepared delicious food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game that you may bless me. His father Isaac said to him, who are you? He answered, I'm your son, your firstborn Esau. Then Isaac trembled very violently and said, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me, and I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him? Yes, and he shall be blessed. So you can imagine just how all of a sudden Isaac, this all just kind of comes crashing down on him. He's just like shaking. Because it's like all of a sudden everything's falling apart, right? As soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. But he, Isaac, said, your brother, because he heard the voice. He knew it was Jacob's voice. Your brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing. Esau says, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me these 2 times. Did he? Did he cheat him the 2 times? Because I don't think he cheated him the first time. Esau's the one that sold the birthright. But if you see Esau's perspective, he took away my birthright, and behold, now he's taken away my blessing. Then he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Isaac answered and said to Esau, behold, I have made him lord over you, and all his brothers I have given to him for servants. And with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son? Esau said to his father, have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother, in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereft of you both in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I loathe my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? All right, so there's a lot going on there. So let's go back and take a look, right? So Esau comes in because he's done what he thought he was supposed to do. He gets everything ready, brings it to his father for the blessing. He gets there. His father tells him, I just blessed somebody. And what are you talking about? Your brother. The trickster, right? The one who grabs by the heel. I have blessed him. He's going to be blessed. There's nothing I can do about it. The blessing's on him. He says, well, can't you bless me too? It's like, well, the blessing has gone. Esau's kind of despairing here. Kind of wonder why he's despairing so much. I mean, probably a lot of it is with the material things that come with it. And Esau, he comes in saying, I'm your firstborn, but he had already sold the birthright to his son, to his brother, but okay. So then Isaac gives this I guess, if you will, blessing, right, to his older son. It's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's you can't get away from this fact that you're going to be under your brother. You're going to serve him, but at some point you'll be freed from servitude. So there's going to be again this exile, which is going to happen. So Isaac is sending his son Esau away. He's going to go to this land to the east. And what was Esau's other name? Do you guys remember that one that sounded like red? Edom. So he's going to go to this land to the east, and so his people will be the Edomites. And there is going to be long-standing contention between the Edomites and the children of Israel. So, again, we have this other thing. So Abraham had sons, sent his older son Ishmael away. There's going to be contention between them and the Hebrews. Go down a generation. Isaac sends his son. He can't give the blessing to Esau, but you're going to be this land of warriors in Edom, the Edomites. There's going to be contention with that, and then his other son, and exile. And we're going to keep seeing exile throughout the Old Testament. Even in Genesis, we see exile happening. But, okay, there's all that there. So Rebekah hears this plan that Esau, Esau knows that Isaac is near death, and then there's going to be this period of 7 days of mourning. And then after that's done, he's going to what? He's going to get rid of the trickster. And then, hey, guess who gets the blessing? Or guess who gets all the stuff? Esau. I'm going to get rid of him. And then we're going to have this problem fixed for good. Rebekah hears that. She hears about this. She lets Jacob know that he needs to get going. So Rebekah goes to Isaac and says this thing at the end, going back to what we talked about at the end of the last chapter. I loathe my life because of the Hittite women. Who are the Hittite women? Her daughters-in-law. We don't know what all they've been doing, but ostensibly this is a believable thing that she's coming to Isaac with. Don't let Jacob marry another one of these. Send him back. Send him back to the land I'm from that he might marry somebody there. So, that's a good cover story for this. Yeah. What's that? No, I wouldn't say God's not doing anything to deceive here, because God has said he's going to, because God could deliver the blessing regardless, right? Well, what they're doing, the tricking and stuff like that, the deceit is like, because Jacob outright lies to his father, right? It's not like they sit down and have this conversation like, well, actually, God told mom that the blessing is supposed to go to me, and like, no, this deceit, which is not good. God did not tell them to do that. They elected, kind of like we've seen in the past, to try to make sure that God's blessing is happening through their own means, which is how we got Ishmael. So we've got, again, people trying to do things. They think, okay, well, God's promise is this, so I need to do this to make it happen. Because who are they focusing on? Themselves. It's not trusting that God's going to make it happen. So we have all this going on here, but now Rebekah is, and we'll stop here, but she's going to Isaac and then saying, okay, you got to send Jacob away so he finds a wife. And also doesn't get killed by his brother. She kind of leaves that part out there. So, okay, so the tricking doesn't stop here, though. This stays with Jacob. Like, this is a lifelong thing. So we'll hear more about that next week as we pick up with chapter 28. Any other things before we go? Jan, yeah. Uh-huh. That could very well be, yeah, because when Jacob is gone for a long time, and when he comes back, she's probably dead at that point, because she's probably not that much younger than Isaac. Okay. All right, we'll see you guys next week.